Hi there, and welcome to this YouTube video on how to give a good presentation. Very often in law school we need to give presentations. This is usually for an assignment. We might need to present on a case or a problem scenario, or maybe on a journal article reading that we've done. But it's also really useful to know how to give good presentations for the future. As lawyers, we may need to speak in court. We may need to present an advice to a client or a proposal as to how the legal matters could best be structured for their business. And even if when we graduate we decide not to be a practicing lawyer, it's still useful to know how to do presentations, because there'll always be opportunities and times when you will need to give a presentation. Let's have a look at two different presentations so that you can see which one is effective or not effective and why you think that might be. My presentation is about trading blocks, and trading blocks are defined as the agreements between different states which different states do to make special arrangements for their trade. So it's really important, trading blocks are really important, because that's kind of the way that they work together, and different states can benefit. Yeah. Did you notice with that first presentation how there wasn't a lot of eye contact? The volume of the voice was low. There was a lot of fiddling with notes. There was a lack of certainty, so there were lots of ums and ahs. And there was notes that were stapled, so when the notes were turned over, it was a distraction to the audience. Also, there was a paperclip that was picked up and fiddled with, plus scratching of the head and flicking of the hair. These things are distracting when you give a presentation. And another thing that was done was a rising inflection, which is going up at the end of a sentence. A lot of people do this, but what it does in a presentation is it converts what is supposed to be a sentence into a question, and it takes away from the certainty of your voice. So let's have a look at the one that's a bit better. Good afternoon everyone, my name is Michelle, and my presentation today is about trading blocks. Trading blocks are very important developments in international law because they are groupings of different states that have similar trade interests for their mutual benefit, and they operate outside of the multilateral trading system. What's going to follow now is some tips and strategies on how to give a good presentation. The first thing to do when preparing for a presentation is to do the reading and make sure that you understand what it's about. Once you feel confident that you understand what it's all about, then it's time to give a thought to how would this best be conveyed if I was hearing it for the first time. It may be useful to structure your presentation in a certain flow. Perhaps if you're doing a case note, you might start with the background to the case and the facts and the relevant law and the issues, to structure it in that way. Now, when you prepare your slides, it's important to time yourself. So, for example, if you're giving a 15-minute presentation and you've got 15 slides, you need to ask yourself, can I possibly cover each slide in 1 minute? If not, you need to cut down your slides. One of the big things in giving presentations is that you can never cover as much as you thought you'd like to. So it's important not to get too overambitious and try and jam everything in, because all you'll end up doing is stressing yourself out, running out of time and speaking very fast. So don't be too ambitious about what you can cover. Make sure that you cover the most important things. Before you actually give the presentation, if you've prepared your presentation and perhaps some slides, it's useful to do a practice with both of them. Usually classrooms are available from time to time during the day when there's no classes in them, and there's nothing to stop you from logging in as a student and practicing your presentation. When you test the technology and your ability to open the PowerPoint slides in the room, go to the back of the room and have a look at your slides. Are they visible from the back of the room? With your slides, is there too much information on them? Could you just shorten it to some smaller points so that you could then make those points in a larger size so they'd be easier to see? If you happen to have a Handycam at home, it's a good idea to film yourself doing the presentation so that you can pick up if you've got any annoying mannerisms. If you don't have a video camera, you could rope in a member of the family or a friend to help you. It's important that what you wear is appropriate to the audience that you're speaking with. On the day, it's important to arrive early if you can, and just do a final test to check it's all working. The notes that you take with you should only be in point form, and preferably no more than on one sheet of paper. It's important to start your presentation on a bang. So start it confidently. Introduce yourself and introduce the topic that you're going to be talking about, and give a bit of an overview, or perhaps say why you think it's an important or interesting topic to speak about. Let's talk about tone, pace, volume and style. In terms of tone, you need to vary the tone of your voice, but not excessively. What I mean by this is don't be monotone if just speaking at the one level. But on the other hand, don't be outrageously different, so that you just have some intonations which makes your voice sound more interesting. In terms of pace, a presentation should be slower than your normal conversation, so just slow it down a bit. And in terms of volume, it should be a bit louder than you normally would speak, without shouting. You want to make sure that people are listening and that nobody at the back is having trouble hearing you. Also, in terms of the style, your style is a little bit more formal than a normal conversation, so you need to be careful to avoid colloquialisms unless you think they're really appropriate. Don't take a pen up with you, or indeed anything that you might fidget with. One of the keys to audience engagement is eye contact. So the more that you can speak freely, the more you will be able to look up and look at your audience. The technique is to scan the audience, which means looking at different people, looking at the people in the back row, in the front row and so on. Okay, so now you're giving the presentation and it all seems to be going well so far. You've given a good introduction, you're speaking freely and you're making eye contact with the audience. The only thing is that you're finding that you're running short on time. What do? Do you speed up? Not a good idea. Do you try still to cover everything? Yeah, that is a good idea. Or do you just plod on at the same pace and just cover the next slide and not the rest? That's not such a good idea. What you need to be able to do is ask yourself in 25 words or less, what is the point of each slide? And give that and then move forward. So when you finish the presentation, it's important that you finish strong, just like you started strong. It's not a matter of just fading to black and just running out of things to say and going, and that's all. Because that's weak. It's better to finish up on a strong point. And that might either be a quick summary, or better still, it might be nailing the key reason why your topic that you've just discussed is very significant. If the presentation that you're giving has a component for discussion, then it's important that you raise a discussion, and that doesn't just mean saying, and that's it. Does anyone have any questions? That may start discussion, but it may not. So it's best if you raise a question for discussion. There's no perfect presentation, and all of us are learning. We keep picking up techniques. And indeed, every time you watch someone's presentation, or even if you watch the presentation of a US president or whatever on television, always think about how are they presenting, what was effective about that I might incorporate into what I do, or what was not effective that I need to make sure I don't do. Let's have a look at a nutshell of what we've learned. I guess we could call it the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, present. And you'll have a successful presentation. Best of luck with it.